book, This Far by Faith, by Fox News analyst and author Juan provides a penetrating look at how spiritual faith has played a pivotal role in the social, political, and economic empowerment of Africans brought as slaves to America. Sunday continues to resonate as a day of special spiritual meaning to millions of African Americans.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand.
Well, This Far by Faith is inspired by the idea that the African American religious experience and is so intense, so much a part of every minute of our lives in this country, and yet in a way invisible because people don't always talk about it. We see it in every way and every day. You can see it expressed in so many different forms in terms of different kinds of religious worship. But it's one of those things where people don't comment on it. They just take it for granted that black people have this very intimate, intense relationship with religious faith and with God. And I wanted to sort of break it down and look at why that was. Why is it that in our community you have the intensity, the passion, the roar of religious faith as a core to our experience in this country, America? Whereas if you go into a white neighborhood, you know, it seems to me the churches are often closed most of the week, open on Sunday, and when they open on Sunday, it's a calm, meditative place with soothing music. The black church, by contrast, is a place that will pump you up, that will drive you, inspire you, sometimes confound you. As a child growing up in Brooklyn, New York, it was my experience that right there on the street, you could see brothers selling Muhammad Speaks and talking to you about the Nation of Islam. You go down the street, there's the AME church. You go further down the street, there's the Baptist church with the gospel music flowing out. You go further down the street, there's the Roman Catholic Church and black people involved in the Mass, even as it's said in Latin. You continue down the street and there's the evangelical and the whole notion of Pentecostal church with people jumping with the Spirit, people speaking in tongues, mysteries unveiled with the Spirit. And I was, as a child, wanted to know why. What's going on? Why this intense experience? And being a writer, I had the opportunity now to explore, to answer some questions for myself and the readers.
And you use faith as a common denominator. Is that intended to encompass all faiths ecumenically?
In other religious traditions, what you see is people coming to God through the church. And so they have a unique experience in the sense that the church provides them guidance as to how to approach God. In the African American experience, I think people come to God through faith. And once they come to the faith experience, then, in a sense, create the church. It becomes a creative endeavor, African American religion. So you stop and you think for a second about the experience of coming to this land as slaves, stripped of everything, stripped of name, identity, family, also stripped of many of the tribal religious practices that black people knew on the continent of Africa. And you come here and suddenly you're confronted by Christianity as the slave master's religion. And the slave master is telling you, if you're going to be a good Christian as a slave, you must be obedient, you must be subservient, your reward will come in heaven. And instead the slaves take that, flip the script, put it on its head and say, wait a minute, if we're all Christians, we expect to be treated as equals, as also equal in the house of God, as children of God, fellow children of God, and use it then to challenge segregation. And in fact, use it then to break away from the white church and create their own black Christian church. So you see the black Christian church founded, and then you know what, on top of that, you see people who find that they are rejected by the Christian church, whether it's the black Christian church or the white Christian church, and in a sense react to it, and they go off and they form other ways of worship, Nation of Islam being a prime example, Moorish Christian Science Church, another example. All of these, very different, but it's all, seems to me, a function of a creative force, which is the African Americans responding to their historical circumstance and creating these new forms of worship.
In 1889, you mentioned in your book that the American National Baptist Resolution, its edict declared that the church should separate. The church should form its own communities and therefore petition the Congress for $100 million. I don't believe many people are aware of that. We often think that the Nation of Islam was the first to advocate separatism within the borders of the continental United States.
Oh, no,
that's not true, is it?
Not at all. And
Could
you know,
explain?
Well, you know what you have to understand. I mean, this goes back even to the Revolutionary War times, when you find people like George Liele and others who find that the white church will not grant authority to black people to stand in the pulpit as equals, will not grant them even the fellowship to sit in the pews as equal. And they want to be fellow Christians, but they decide since they are not being treated as such, they're going to break away and form their own church. Initially, this is quite threatening to white Christians who suddenly see black people creating their own traditions and creating their own leadership, and they suspect, and they don't suspect without good reason, it will be the basis for black people to challenge their lower status in the society, to challenge in terms of even the slave, because what you'll do is you'll see people using Christianity to stir slave rebellions, as is the case with Denmark Vesey in South Carolina, where most slaves came into this country. And then you come forward and you see the black church separating, and you speak about a time in the late 1800s when Reconstruction is the order of the day, but Reconstruction then has been running into reactionary tendencies on the part of white America. They're trying to now retrench. And as they're retrenching, that